So as soon as Mikey pops on, we're going to be going live with him. How's everybody doing out there today? You guys missing boxing yet? All right, let me see what's going on here. See Mikey Garcia, here we go. What's going on, Mikey? How you doing today, man?
What's up, bro? Doing good.
Good.
Chilling.
Good. Glad you could join us today, man. How's this COVID life treating you?
Not so bad, man. I'm actually enjoying the slow pace. You know, instead of running around it all day, doing a lot of things, it's actually nice to kind of chill a little bit and just kind of kick back. But you know, you got to take precautionary measures. You got to, you know, make sure you're wearing your mask whenever you go out in public and stuff like that. Certain distance, but other than that, you know, it's okay. Slow pace down a little bit.
You know, for most fighters, you know, they're waiting to get back in that gym and waiting to spar and whatnot. You're lucky enough, man, to have got to that level where you're able to have your own gym and get out there and train and whatnot. You still staying in shape, bro? You still running?
Man, I haven't ran or stepped foot inside the gym to work out, man.
No?
I do plan on starting next week. First week of May, I intend to start running a little bit here in my hills here, and maybe going to the gym maybe 3 times a week, just to start getting some work in, get some mobility in, you know.
No, for sure, definitely, man. So, tell us how your career actually started in boxing. We know that you've been trained by your brother, you've been trained by your dad, Eduardo. But how did you actually get into boxing out there in Oxnard?
Dude, it started when I was 13. I was actually not in boxing training, but I grew up, you know, watching my brother, watching Vargas and a bunch of other fighters that my dad had. You know, he was in charge of the La Colonia boxing gym in Oxnard. And I would come around just to, you know, see the guys training, but until I was 13, I really never thought about boxing, you know, as a career or even, you know, like an amateur fight or anything like that. I came down to Reseda to see my nephew, Javier Pelos. My nephew, he was starting his amateurs. He was starting to have some amateur fights, and we came to a show to support him. And one of the kids at one of the gyms didn't have an opponent, and my brother looked at the kid and saw me and said, "You know, you're getting in the ring with them."
Oh.
So because I wasn't licensed as an amateur to compete,
yeah,
they made it an exhibition match.
Okay.
So it was just like a sparring session.
Yeah.
But I sure did. You know, I borrowed the shoes and cup and gear and all this, and I got in there and did a 3-round exhibition with this kid. And that's how it really started. That's how I started. After that, I started to actually go to the gym to train and learn and, you know, just practice. And once I turned, a few months later, I turned 14. Then I had my first actual official amateur bout.
And as far as boxing goes, I know for a fact that it's not always been what I couldn't say what you wanted to do, but didn't you take that path to actually become like a Ventura County sheriff?
Yeah, see, after high school, I mean, I turned pro as soon as I graduated high school. But during the first 2 years of the pro career, nothing's really, you know, big, nothing's really guaranteed. So I actually went through, first I went through college there, Oxnard College there, and graduated. Then that same year, I joined the Ventura County Police and Sheriff's Academy. I graduated that in January of 2010. And by then, it was like my 4th year as a professional. But, I mean, still, you're not making money off of it. You're not really doing much. So it still wasn't sure where my career would go. And that's why I wanted to have something else to fall back on, you know, in case boxing didn't pan out, you know, the way I wanted. You know, I could either go back to school, finish that, or have a career in law enforcement.
Nice. And then, so what happened? You just decided to leave the law enforcement on the back burner and continued? Well, we know you continued with it, but
Once,
what was that decision?
yeah, 'cause, look, it was a year after the police academy. It was 2011 when I had my first appearance on HBO. It was March 20 something, 23rd, 26th, I forget. It was in Atlantic City, and I had I was a co-feature of the night, and that was like the first time making good money, or what I would consider good money. So I just put everything else aside. I said, you know what, this is gonna look, or at least it looks good right now. So take advantage of what's available and make the most out of it. Make the most from boxing, and if it doesn't work out, then I can always go back. But at least I already had, like I said, the some college there, and the academy also already taken care of.
So your career, I think, to me, people know who you are. You're a 4-division world champion. You've already done a lot in the sport, but to me, I think a lot of your career doesn't get put out there. People forget the fact that you had a 2.5-year hiatus from the sport after winning, your first 2 divisional titles. You beat Salido, then you beat Roman, and you win those titles, and you take a 2.5-year layoff. And a lot of people, including myself, during that time, didn't realize, I didn't think you were going to actually have that hunger to come back into that ring to win 2 more titles in 2 different divisions. I kind of figured, man, this guy's probably getting used to being around his family. I know he's going through a lot of legal issues, and does he still have that hunger? He's already made some money. He's got that law enforcement career to fall back onto. Does he really want it? And then you came back and you had that fight against Rojas, and then you won another title against Zlachichin on the Frampton undercard, the Frampton Leo Santa Cruz undercard.
Yeah.
What drives you to for greatness? What drives you to be great?
Look, it's actually funny, and I always, whenever anybody asks me about hunger and the passion for the sport or whatever, it's kind of funny how things happened with me. Normal, traditional, all the fighters have the hunger and the passion early on, and then as they get older, maybe towards the later part of their careers, they kind of lose that passion. And like you mentioned, maybe I could have lost some of that during that time off, and I probably wouldn't come as hungry as I was before. But it kind of worked out backwards for me, where early on in my career, it wasn't the same love, it wasn't the passion like that. It was kind of like, well, we'll see how this goes. We'll see what happens in boxing. We'll see. That was kind of my mentality, my mindset. We'll see. But once it was taken away for those 2.5 years, I started to get that fire and passion for the sport. It was just kind of in a way taken away without me being finished. So I kind of like wanted it, so that I could show everybody there's so much more I can do. There's so much more I can accomplish, and it was taken away. I wasn't able to complete, and finish where I started. So that's why when I came back, I made it a point and a priority for me to just fight, all the champions that are available, fight the biggest fights, and strive for greatness. And that's what keeps me going right now. I'm not done. I still feel like, there's so much more I'm going to accomplish. There's no doubt in my mind that I want to be champion 2 or 3 more times. That's how I feel, and I feel very, very capable of doing all this. But it's kind of, weird how it started, after a layoff. Had I not taken that layoff, I probably would be retiring now, or might have already been retired, because it was getting to the point where it was just being redundant and boring, and there was no like excitement, and once I started coming back and really challenging myself with the bigger names, bigger weight classes, fighting bigger guys, that's a challenge, and that's what actually motivates me to prove everybody that there's so much more I can accomplish. I'll remind everybody, I started at featherweight, 126 pounds, and now I'm fighting at welterweight, and I feel like I can still compete, at the highest level, even at welterweight. I feel like I will be champion at welterweight, and that's what keeps me going, that there's challenges. That's the motivation.
Now, to me, you're a pioneer in a certain way, in a certain aspect, that you had that hiatus, you got away from Top Rank, and you became basically your own promoter. You fought under Top Rank, you fought under PPC, now you're fighting under Matchroom, but it's not necessarily, you're not under necessarily any type of obligation and having a contract with these companies, and you're leading the way because you see fighters like Canelo Alvarez, you see fighters like, especially Terrence Crawford right now in Top Rank, who seem to be stuck, not being able to get big fights because there's certain fighters that don't want to cross promotional lines to fight Crawford, and vice versa because of the politics of the sport. And what you have done, basically promoting yourself and being your own boss, is something that nobody else is doing. How hard was that for you to accomplish, coming back off of that layoff?
I was fortunate enough to be able to work with a lot of different people in boxing that allowed me to work on a fight-by-fight deal and allowed me to kind of, be flexible with opponents and which promotional entities I work with and network. Same thing. Not every fighter is capable of doing this. I think a lot of it has to do with the draw, with the fans that I have. If I don't have the fans to draw the sales and the ratings, then I wouldn't be able to, dictate, terms like the way I do. So that's why I always thank my fans, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. I wouldn't be able to demand certain fights. You mentioned Canelo having difficulty securing certain names. You mentioned Crawford having difficulty securing certain names. That's because they're locked into a promoter, and some promoters have beef with each other. Some promoters don't want to work with each other. Maybe they don't want to let you borrow opponents unless they get something else in return, and it just complicates things. And I learned that, and I was able to be flexible and have doors open with everybody. It wasn't something that I learned overnight either, but I've been in boxing my whole life, watching other careers, with my own brother Robert or with Fernando Vargas, and then all the other fighters that my brother has had, Luevano, Beloria, Margarito, Maidana, and the list is bigger than that. So I've learned in every single one of them, and then with what happened to me for those 2.5 years, I learned a lot during that time off. I learned a lot about the sport, and once I came back, I used all that to allow me to, navigate, through different promoters and different people in boxing to allow me to do what I do. And I mean, it's worked very well. I'm very happy with the way things have worked out. But I also know that some fighters need the promoter to start their careers, to build their career, let them develop as a fighter. You do need support, and that's, I do understand that. Now, would I sign with a promoter right now? I mean, I'll definitely look into it if it's a good deal, if I see the right options there. It's not just about the money. I tell people it's not just about the money. There's a value that I see. There's a value in a specific fight, with a certain opponent, with exposure, not just the monetary value. So if a promoter has the right fights available, then maybe I can do something like that. But so far, I mean, I've been able to do it like this. And I like it.
And you're doing it yourself. You're doing it on your own because it was January of 18. And you were on the show with me on the NBC radio show. And you called out Earl Spence at that time. Before, this was a year before you, a year and a half before you even fought him. And I'm like, Earl Spence. And it ended up happening. It ended up, you made that fight happen with Earl Spence. You went up to 47 and you did what you said you were going to do. You took that challenge, you moved up in weight. It didn't come out, of course, the way you wanted it to happen. And now you're at 47. You just had a fight with Jesse. How do you feel at that weight, man? Do you feel real comfortable at 47?
Look, I feel good. I would be lying if I tell you I felt great. Like, obviously, I'm not big, a natural welterweight. I'm not gonna be the biggest or the strongest welterweight. And I am fighting bigger guys, who naturally are walking north of 165, 170.
Yeah.
So naturally, I'm not gonna have the same power against them because they can take a better punch. But I feel that my abilities, my skill set will still allow me to compete even against bigger guys like that. And that's the challenging part. But that's what excites me. That's what keeps me going. When the best way to give somebody an example of how how I feel is like when a kid or anybody that plays video games gets a brand new game and they're playing at the hardest level. First you start off at beginner and then intermediate and then hard. But once you beat the game at the hardest level and it becomes easy for you, it's not exciting anymore. You stop playing because you already accomplished that. There's no other level above that. So you stop playing. Well, that's kind of like the way I felt with the lower weight classes. It just felt like there was not enough there for me, and when everybody says I shouldn't do something, that kind of, inspired me and motivated me to, push even harder. And that's why I feel that 147 is that challenge. And I do feel comfortable enough to be at the highest level, and that's why I'm still here.
Have you had challenges adapting to that weight? Because in all honesty, that first fight with Spence, we know what happened. To me, it looked like you never really could pull that trigger. Now, I don't know if it was all Spence and his boxing abilities and him using his length, but then even against Jesse Vargas, it just seemed like, yeah, you got that knockdown, and yeah, you got the win, but it seemed like you were a little bit hesitant to pull that trigger the first few rounds. And I don't know if it was Jesse's size, or were you a little tired? Is it still adjusting to 47 and getting used to the strength of these bigger fighters, and you not wanting to engage? But it seems like it's a little bit of a different Mikey at 47.
Well, like I said, they are naturally a lot bigger, so there's always that risk of getting hurt, getting caught. So I gotta be extra careful. Even if they're not naturally heavy punchers, that extra weight, carries a big pop. So I gotta be careful of that. Also, the height and reach. They're naturally, like I said, taller with longer reach. So that's something that I gotta make adjustments for. Even though we train, against taller guys in the gym, it's always, different once you get inside the ring, and it's, for real. It's always a little adjustment to do. But I feel, like I said, I just feel that I'll be able to do it, at the highest level. Look, I'll be competing, at 47, and I don't feel like there's no way I can't get another title shot. I feel like I will earn another title shot, and when I do get that title shot, you're gonna see that I have adjusted enough and felt more comfortable and be able to do what I do.
Now at 47, you have, of course, you got Earl Spence still there as one of the champions. He's a unified world champion, and you have Manny Pacquiao. Me and you have talked on several occasions. We've talked, before the Jesse fight. We've talked in Las Vegas at the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame, and this was actually before the Jesse fight. And I thought that fight was going to get made. How close is it, this fight between you and Pacquiao? How close is it to getting made, actually?
Well, we haven't had any discussions, recently regarding Manny. Leading up to the Vargas fight, there were some conversations back in December about a possible fight with Manny, and his team was for it. But once the fight with Vargas was over, we were supposed to resume those conversations about Manny. But then this whole COVID-19 thing, and then with the current situation with boxing and all the sports, there's no conversation. There's nothing. So I don't know, if we still are even on the table. If that fight's still on the table, I have no idea. I haven't discussed any fight, for that matter. So I would love to. I would love that opportunity to fight Manny. It's a title fight, and it's Manny. I think it'll be a great matchup. The styles do make fights, and he's not tall, he's not lanky like some of the other fighters. So I think that would make it a more entertaining fight. And he's a warrior. He's there to fight. He's there to win, and he's a living legend. So I would love to share the ring with him and show everybody there's a lot more than what they were able to see. You had mentioned Errol Spence, and that was the most horrible performance of my career. But that's just fine. It's just boxing. You win, and when you lose, you still learn.
Yeah. What did you learn from that? What did you learn against that fight with Earl?
Yeah, I just wasn't able to do what I normally do. He's really good. He does everything very well, and I keep telling everybody that he reminded me a lot of me. He doesn't do anything extraordinary, like flashiness, or he doesn't have the fastest hands or the craziest footwork, or something like that. But he does everything very well. And when I was there with him, whenever I tried to walk forward, he would walk back just enough to keep that distance, where he was still able to connect, but I wasn't able to connect. And when I tried to walk backwards, he was able to walk forward just enough to keep that same distance to where it's to his advantage. So he was very good. That's all it is. I mean, that's part of boxing. Okay, fuck, you win some, you don't, you lose some, it's fine. You keep moving forward. But that's the way I felt. Early before the fight, I thought I was gonna be able to do so much more, and I just wasn't.
And that's the thing with fighters nowadays, Mikey. And I think that's why you have so much of a respect level, and why so many fans actually like you. It doesn't matter whether they're Mexican or they're blacks or they're whites or whatnot. Why you've created that respect level is because you never ran from a fight. You're waiting for the big fights, and when that time has come, you've taken these fights, whether you win or whether you lose. A lot of fighters now, it's of course boxing's a business, but it just seems like they're really protecting that oath. How do you feel about these guys that, especially some of these up and comers, man, that just want to, I don't know, maybe be social media stars and not create that legacy in the ring, and think that just because they're selling seats, that's going to make them a big name in the sport?
Look, it's not always the fighter's fault. I feel that some of the younger fighters, or any fighter that's in a way or seeing like he's protecting his record, a lot of it has to do also with the management and the promotion. The manager and the promoter will look at the business for themselves before the fighter's goals and dreams when it comes to legacy. If a fighter wants to fight a specific opponent for legacy, but the promoter knows that there's no business, or the business is not good enough yet, the promoter's not gonna do it. And when you're under contract, the promoter pretty much does what he wants. And that sucks, but that's the way it is. And a lot of the promoters will look at business before the fighter's wishes. I'm fortunate enough, like I said, to be free, and I go after whatever I can, whatever I get, and do it my way. But not everybody, is capable and doing what I do.
And it's a fine line there. You're saying creating a legacy, and on the business side with the managers and these guys making the most money they possibly can. And the fight, it's a real fine line because, for instance, in January, you had Danny Roman unifying the titles against this younger Russian kid that only had like 11 fights. Now, and it's on an undercard. It's not the main event. It was on the Jojo Diaz, Kevin Farmer undercard. And he's not making a ton of money for a world title unification fight, but that's the fight that he wants because he feels that he wants to be a unified champion and take that fight, even going against what his manager's trying to tell him and what these promotional companies are saying. Hey, maybe you can go somewhere and fight a bigger name and get more money. But for him, because I've talked to Danny before, it's like, hey, I wanted that fight. I wanted to fight the best, So is there, sometimes do you think feelings get in the way of you guys, of fighters that, yeah, it's money, but yeah, you want to fight the best as well?
Look, the money will be there. I mean, I just feel that, it's not the promoter that pays us. It's ourselves, that pay us. I mean, the fans. If we can create enough of a draw, the money will be there. And if you fight for legacy, or if you fight the bigger fights, the fans will follow you. The fans will, come watch you fight. So the money will be there. But some other fighters have become stars, through social media or through television, matching them right. But yet they're not fighting the fights that the fans, the real fans, I'm talking about the boxing fans, want to see. So they may have a lot of fans, but until they fight the right opponents, the ones that the fans want to see them with, it's not going to create legacy. Sure, they can make a ton of money because the promoter sees that they're a draw. Now, like I said, the younger fighter that doesn't have the same promotion or the same, marketing behind them or whatever it may be, they gotta go maybe a harder, route by fighting the tougher guys, by fighting the champions. It might not be the best money, but eventually, if you keep doing that, the fans will draw towards you, and that's when the money will come.
It's funny that you say that because you guys have a fighter in your guys' stable right now, Virgil Ortiz, who's making his name through Golden Boy Promotions, making his name by fighting the best fighters out there. He knocked out Mauricio Herrera, who had never been knocked out. He's on a knockout KO streak like you've never seen before. He's doing everything the right way, and he's doing it in the ring. And I think the fans appreciate what Virgil's doing. Because although there's Ryan Garcia, who's a social media fan, which we all know, he has millions and millions of fans, right? And he's basically Golden Boy's GOAT right now, and he's their money maker. I think, like you say, the true fans that watch boxing appreciate it more. And this is from everything that I read through social media, from posts that I see, and the love that Virgil gets. His will, his dedication, and his heart to get in there and fight anybody is making Virgil who he is today.
Look, I see Virgil, when he's at the gym and I train with him, I spar with him. He's got all the abilities, the skills, got the hunger, the power, the speed. He's hungry to learn. So I think he's gonna be phenomenal. I think he's a great fighter already. You compare it a little bit with Ryan. Ryan has the social media, going crazy for him. But he hasn't fought the guys that people would love to see him fight. The real boxing fans would love to see Ryan fight somebody, worth it. But like I said, it's not smart for a promoter to do that right away when they still haven't seen the kid develop to that level. He is learning and he is developing, and eventually you will see Ryan with the bigger names and the bigger fights. But Virgil's, a step ahead. He's already been doing that, and he's still developing, but he's able to do that already. He's just that much of a fighter, So every career is different, but it's a promoter. You need to see which fighter is going to go a little faster pace versus other, someone that takes a longer route. I mean, this goes just from experience. I mean, I didn't fight for my world title till I had like 30 fights, and it took a little longer. It took, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it took, to fight for a world title. Whereas other kids are fighting for a world title maybe like 2, 3 years. Fernando Vargas only had 14 fights when he fought for a world title. Yeah. It took me 30 fights. So it changes. The fans, you'll never be able to lie all the time to the fans. Eventually, you're gonna have to step it up. And I think the fans love to see a fighter step up sooner, but not every fighter is capable of doing that. They're not there yet. They're not ready yet. So we just gotta be patient. We gotta be patient and really judge later in their careers.
It's a slippery slope because, as both of us know, the casual fans are who make the sport. They're the ones who the fight game is sold to. So you take Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, for instance, when they fought, right? They sold 4.5 million pay-per-views. Those pay-per-views weren't bought by diehard fans. All of us in the game knew exactly what was going to happen and how that fight was going to play out with Floyd and Manny. We knew what type of fight Floyd was going to fight. We knew he was going to use that tuck that he uses, that shoulder roll, and how the fight was going to play out. But they sold it. They sold it to the casuals. They sold it to everybody else. And I think that's what's really hard. And I think that's what is frustrating sometimes for the true fans, is because you have true fans that know the sport. They can tell you who the champions are in every division. They can tell you who their favorites are and who the best fighters are, who are boxers, who are punchers. And I think those are the fans that get frustrated, especially when certain promotional companies go along trying to make people superstars, and don't get them in the ring. So it's kind of it's a catch-22 for the promotional companies because you want to make that money with them and you want them to be superstars, but at the same time you want to please the boxing fans. So it's tough,
First for his money, the promoter will look to see. Will see the money before he sees anything else. It's his business. It's his business to make money for his company, and he a lot of times will hold off on a specific fight he believes it's gonna make more money later. A lot of times, most of the time, they are right. Once in a while, they strike out. You know, they either lose the fight because one of the champions moved in weight, or one of the champions already lost, or whatever might have happened. But for the most part, they're pretty on it. You know, they're smart. You know, like I'm talking about, you know, Golden Boy, Bob Arum. You know, the promoters that have done it for the years. You know, and they know boxing like nobody else. You know, but I think that if the younger fighters started to fight each other sooner, I think boxing itself as a sport would grow even much more, because now you're gonna have happy fans. You're gonna have happier fans who are really gonna tune in to watch some really good boxing when everybody's in their prime, when the champions are young and hungry, as opposed to watching them years later when they're already maybe a little tired, or maybe you had, you know, losses here and there or whatever. I mean, I think boxing will always be around. I think boxing is going to be terrific. You know, we've seen some great fights, you know, in recent years, but we do get disappointed every once in a while.
Yeah. Now, as far as world titles go, if a fight were to be offered to you, because it keeps popping up in the timeline, you know, a fight with Lomachenko at 140, if he were to move up and that super fight were, you know, to be offered to you, between a fight between you and Loma, is that a fight you would consider taking?
Definitely. I would definitely take that fight. But being realistic, I don't see it happening. You know, just being realistic, I haven't heard Bob say any good things about me recently, so I just don't think any fight between me and any of Top Rank's fighters will ever happen. He claims a lot of things, but honestly, he's lying. He's bullshitting, lying, because it's not in his best interest to put one of his fighters against me, who's going to demand a fair shake, you know, a fair purse, and it's not in his business. He'd rather keep that remainder. Sorry about that.
No, no worries.
You there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I'm up in the mountains. There's not a lot of signal up here.
No, I know. Yeah.
That. Yeah. So I don't think that fight's gonna happen anytime soon.
But you've already fought. You know, there's TC as well. You know, you got TC at 147 as well, but issues with Top Rank. I just
Bro, let me walk. Let me get outside. Sorry, guys. Let me get outside so you can get more. Sorry, I don't get a lot of signal up here in the. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Wait, sorry, I walked outside, so maybe I can get better signal outside.
It's all right, man. I mean, we've already got through most of this. So at 47, man, what do you see yourself fighting next?
I mean, honestly, I think I'm willing to fight anybody at 47. I mean, preferably, obviously, Manny. That'd be the dream fight for me. They were excited before the you know, this whole, you know, virus came about. You know, it seemed like their team was excited for it and willing to discuss that. So that's the first thing I would try to pursue. But if that's not available, then maybe I would go after whoever else was. You know, you got Keith, you got Danny on that I think are easy fights that we can do, like easy for me to handle and negotiate. Not easy fights, but easy to negotiate. So I think any of those fights would be great fights for me at welterweight.
That's those are all big names. There's a lot of the 47 division is packed, man. Would you ever fight something like a in England?
I would love to go out there. I mean, if the fight is available and it happens to go to England or anywhere, in other countries, I mean, for me, it's.
Think you had better signal inside?
I think I had a better signal inside, huh?
Yeah, I think I'll
try that again. Cutting off. Sorry about that. Let's try that again.
All right. Can you hear me now? All right.
Is that a little bit better? Is this better?
Yeah, it's better, man. I mean, you're still a little blurry, but at least you're not cutting out. You're cutting out pretty bad outside. So.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, you're good.
Maybe we got it here.
Yeah. So we were saying about,
if there was a fight in England or any other country, I mean, I'm down to go anywhere. I mean, honestly, it's just four corners and four ropes, so it doesn't change. That doesn't affect. But I would love to be able to fight, like anywhere in the UK or another country where other fans could have a chance to see me in person.
A lot of people are saying Mexico, man. Have you ever fought down there in Mexico?
I fought there a few times. I fought out there, I think, 4 times in Mexico, twice in Aguascalientes, once in Mexico City, and once in Los Mochis. Just when I was first developing my career. If I happen to be able to fight a big fight, in Mexico, that'd be terrific. Because they haven't been able to see me. A lot of people from Mexico haven't been able to see me live, so that would be pretty fun. I mean, in fact, one of the most memorable venues that I've ever fought in was at the Bull Ring in the stadium there in Aguascalientes.
Yeah.
That experience was awesome. That experience was the best. It was I think it was Arce who fought that night as the main event, and it was sold out crowd. And obviously, I was one of the earlier fights, but it was a badass experience with all the fans cheering there. That was fun.
How did you guys develop such a stronghold in Texas, man? I mean, I was out there with you guys for the fight with Spence. Then you were out there for the Jesse Vargas fight, but it just seems like those fans in Texas really turn out for you. You guys have a big stronghold in San Antonio. Your brother has a gym out there. You guys have a promotional company out there in Texas as well that do fights in Irving. How did you guys develop that stronghold in Texas?
It just Texas has always been a big boxing state. And early in my career, I fought in many regions in Texas. From Corpus, McAllen, Laredo, Dallas, San Antonio. I mean, I fought in many places in Texas, and they've always been a boxing state. The fans are always supportive. They always show up early to the shows, and so it just grew. The fan base grew, and I became champion a few times there in Texas. Fighting in different cities, and so it's almost like a second home. Honestly, the people treat us so well. Why wouldn't I go to a place? Why wouldn't we like to go to a place that people treat us so well?
Yeah.
Not saying that other places don't, but Texas, does very well for us. And you got some very good fighters out of Texas. So we come there all the time. We do our shows there. We've done a few shows, boxing shows. My own promotional company, Garcia Promotions, has done a few shows out there in the Irving, Dallas, Texas, and I mean it's a great turnout. So I keep doing it. I think it's great, to travel and especially when you got a young fighter, you want him to experience, different crowds, and I think it's what made me be who I am now.
Yeah, and that last part out there in Irving, you had Nano fighting for you guys out there on one of those cards. Yep. Out there in Irving. And we had got out there to that club like at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was already packed, man. That little nightclub that you guys, yeah, it was packed, man. I mean, it was ready. They were ready to go. People were ready to watch those fights.
Like I tell you, they show up early. They show up early to support their fighters, and that's great. That's what a fighter really likes. At least that's what I appreciate. The support from the fans. I really appreciate the love and support from my fans, and that's why I keep coming there, because I think the fighters that we're promoting, the fighters we're putting on the show, will really enjoy and fight harder when they see that their fans are there.
Now, you fought in front of thousands of fans, and it was 57,000 deep when you fought Earl Spence. You're used to fighting in the big crowds. Now with this COVID-19 taking place, there's a lot of talk of boxing coming back without any type of fans. How do you think that's going to affect you guys as fighters going into a ring inside of an empty arena? Now, I know right now, like, when people go to fights, and there's these early fights, the early undercard fights, you know just as well as I do that these arenas are completely empty, right? Until the main event. But how would you feel as a main event that you're used to fighting in such large, in front of such large crowds, not having these people anymore to watch you fight?
It's gonna be different, obviously, and I don't know what it's gonna be like yet. But if that's what we have to do, then that's what we're gonna have to do to get in the ring and resume our careers. I mean, I think us fighters love the fans. Like I said, I love my fans that support me. I love that. But I mean, once I get in the ring, it's pretty much down to business, and I do what I got to do. But it is gonna be different. I don't think I'm gonna enjoy it as much if I have to fight like that in a warehouse or studio or that type of scenario. I don't think I'll enjoy it as much. But I know a lot of people, most people are gonna be watching on TV, or they're gonna be watching it, whether it's a stream or a network or whatever it may be. So that's what should keep me motivated. That I do know that a million people are still watching. On different platforms. So that's the only difference. I think we'll see how it does. We'll see how it happens. We'll see the first shows. If that's what happens, that they start promoting, first shows like that, I'll have to take a look and really see what it's about.
Yeah, because I was talking to Gabriel Flores Sr., whose son is Gabriel Flores Jr. for Top Rank, and we were talking about the whole fighting without any fans, and it's like, right now, fans are so hungry for any sport because nothing's going on. No baseball, no football, no basketball. Nothing's going on right now. So if you fighters were to get back in the ring without a crowd, I mean, I used for an example WrestleMania a few weeks back. That was the most watched WrestleMania in the history of like all the WWE, just because people were buying something to watch. So I think the money's still going to be there. The live gate money might not be there, but as far as pay-per-view money, as far as money for advertising, for marketing, for commercials, it's going to be there because everybody's going to tune in to want to see these fights.
Yeah, no, I think the networks or the different streaming services, whoever is broadcasting or showcasing the fight, will do great, because now everybody has to watch it on either an app or on television. So the money will still be there, but because the fans are not there, some fighters won't be able to fight maybe as hard and fight with the same passion, knowing that your family's not there, knowing that your loved ones are not there in person to cheer you on. Because, I mean, some fighters do need that type of inspiration, that motivation. I mean, if you remember back, I've seen the video, I don't remember watching it live, but I think it was Chavez fight versus Taylor, and they're telling him, hazlo por tus hijos, Chavez, hazlo por tus hijos, stuff like that, is sometimes needed for a fighter to encourage them, and you might turn around and actually see your family, off to the side there. That might help. Some fighters do need that support. So that's what I'm saying. It is going to be different. We'll see how different it is.
Have you heard anything from Eddie Hearn or from Matchroom Boxing or from any of the promotional companies of when something may take place or when they have anything planned for fights? Because even the media is kind of like, it's still up in limbo for everybody. People are hitting me up all the time. What have you heard? It's just like nothing. There's nothing. I mean,
I haven't heard anything either. I haven't heard anything. Like I said, I haven't had any real professional discussions about any fight. I have no idea of a time frame. I mean, I was fortunate enough to fight, right before this whole thing came down. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I expect I think things will start looking better maybe in the late summer. I think we'll be able to maybe get a fight, by the end of the summer. So maybe you'll see me before the end of the year. One more fight before the end of the year.
Nice. Now,